What's up guys, Benny here and welcome to Caldera, the brand new Call of Duty Warzone map, and I'm gonna take you through the entire thing zone by zone so you know exactly how this map is gonna play out and what all the big points of interest are. Let's get into it. So the first area we're going to check out is the Naval Arsenal. Now this is in the top northwest part of the map and it's built up with two of these main kind of shipyard basins where you've got kind of a lot of cover on the lower bit, but if you get down there, be warned, you're going to get taken out by anyone that's on the like the kind of the top part of the map, which is like where I am now. But there are going to be situations where the gas is closing in and you're going to parachute across, or you're going to end up hiding one of these ships. But a lot of the time you're going to be kind of fighting around these warehouses, which is something we're used to from Verdansk, like fighting around airport. Like you've got the same kind of sort of three warehouse setup over there. It's going to be great for looting, but you also have this structure of these three buildings over here, which is kind of built up of like the command center. There's like a firing range and all that sort of good stuff around here. And of course, if you take up the grapple over there, you can take this high ground. Very exposed, because you're a good area, like a good view of everything going on. You've got ladders going around, but overall quite a cool area of the map. Next, we have docks, which is right next to Arsenal and also has shipment inside. Now, there are a lot of cranes, very similar to port, which you can climb up, and if you're sniping from, going to give you quite a big overview of kind of like the beach between the two areas as well that some people are going to be transitioning across. So lots of high ground in this area, and also, I've got to do it. I've got to fly over. It has shipment in it. A Call of Duty map classic. Not the same shipment that is in Caldera, but you've just got the like the original Modern Warfare style shipment, which is a nice little touch in this area alongside all the warehouses. I think this is actually going to end up being quite a popular spot, especially at the start of the game, because it's right at the top of the map, kind of near peak. Loads of different kind of like high grounds and areas to hold assault rifle fights or move through for close range battles. Quite a lot of jump spots as well for my first impression, but I think it's really cool that they've got shipment in here and also these large warehouses. Loads of different kind of like close range, close quarters fights, especially with people like being in these buildings. Could get quite ratty, not gonna lie, but overall I just love the feel of the place, and it's very, very different. And I think that's one of the first things that really jumps out about Caldera. Every single like POI and region feels very, very different, and you're gonna see that as we go through the video. So next up we have Runway, and I'm gonna be honest, this is somewhere that I wouldn't necessarily recommend landing if you want to get a lot of kills in the game. There isn't too much here. One of the main reasons, of course, is it's a major plane spawn. So if you want to get a plane at the start of the match and kind of like be a pilot around Caldera, this might be the place to go. You've got like a couple of these sort of huts around. You've got like a cool rock formation up here, which could be a great place to set up with an assault rifle or a sniper. And you've got some tiny warehouses that don't really provide much cover. So the fights really need to be kept at a distance as an anti-air truck comes this way. But realistically, all you want to do is get on a plane, take off from Runway, and as you can see down there, it's not highly populated, but that's Runway. Next, we've got Beachhead. Now, honestly, this part of the map I really, really like, because it's sort of where you would go if you were attacking the beach of Caldera. It's got these huge fortification buildings up at the top, but it's kind of got this whole little trench network that you can fight between, and just kind of like have loads of close quarters, move around between cover. I think that's one of the things that Caldera does really well as well, is though it's a little bit smaller than Verdansk, there's loads of routes that you can take, and it's fairly dense of like kind of cover and like kind of positions that you can shoot from. So like this is a perfect flank if your team are fighting down there and you can kind of like take this position. I can already see some really tense final circles, but overall Beachhead, huge kind of like network of trenches, really open area. Otherwise, you can take some risks kind of transitioning out of the trenches, and then built up with some buildings at the top for some different lines of sight if you've got like a sniper or an assault rifle and you're shooting down. So something to be aware of if you're down here. Make sure you can't be seen by these little top areas or you're going to be taken out. But that's Beachhead. Next, we've got the highest point on the map. It is Peak, and you can literally see everything. Like, I'm going to be honest, I hope Ricochet is working. Otherwise, someone with a sniper up here is going to cause absolute havoc. But you've got this top point here, but you've also got this base down here where there is a cable car that goes down that you can get if you want like a quicker route up to the peak, because everything around here is like super flat, super open ground. So if someone is holding this position, it's going to be really, really hard to take it because you have to go along the roads or up the pathway. So if someone's like scanned the area properly, they're going to be able to see you come up. So this is a really powerful position on the map, especially depending on how the circle pulls. And you've got this kind of like whole area that you can navigate through here as well, which is just kind of a really nice spot, but it's a great viewpoint. Really cool to see the entire whole of Caldera from the top here, and we'll see how it plays out. I'm gonna be honest, it's gonna be interesting, but as I said, there's enough cover for the rest of the map that you can't really see like clear lines of sight, so sniping at a distance isn't gonna be too big of a deal, but definite power position on the map. So right next to Peak, we have got the mines. Now this is it sort of reminds me of Salt Mine on a larger scale, if I'm being honest. You've got a whole ton of warehouses as well as a lot of verticality around the edge of the mine. So if you're in the base, if someone's coming from Peak, for example, they're going to be able to take you out. But you've got this whole kind of like complex here with some like high ground windows. I can already see people like holding here with a sniper, like fighting these lines of sights along this warehouse. But there's also loads of little spots you can kind of like jump down that they didn't have. Like the map design is on a different level in Caldera. Like the amount of little spots that you can have, or like the pathways, you can clearly tell they've spent a lot of time designing this map. And like the way that you can transition between buildings and different cover, there's going to be a huge skill level when it comes to map knowledge and awareness that's going to really help you in the games. But I actually really like mines and think it's going to be a great place to drop at the start of the game. It's going to be quite loot intensive, lots of different pathways that you can take, as you can see across here, to get into like kind of the main complex and then push out towards Peak or down towards Ruins and Village, depending on where the zone is. But mines, really cool. So the next area we're checking out is Ruins, and for me personally, this is an area that I don't think I'm going to land that often because it seems incredibly stressful. Don't get me wrong, right? There is a beautiful river. Like, how good does this water look, by the way? Like, that is very picturesque. But the ruins themselves, there's just so many angles that you could get caught out from by someone sitting and holding a line of sight or hiding in a corner as you work your way through the ruins. There's not really any large establishments in this. There's not like a key big ruin that you could hold as a power position. It's all quite similar as you kind of go around. There's like a few tents dotted around. There's like this high ground over here, which kind of leads into like a cave. But other than that, it's going to be a very difficult place to drop unless you're like hyper aware or got a lot of players in your squad that you can make sure you don't get caught out with. But overall, really cool area. Just somewhere that I don't think I'm going to drop too often because it's going to be too easy to get caught out. And next, we've got Village. Now, as you probably have guessed, this is literally a village of lots and lots of very small buildings. There are also like a few little jump ups that you can do where you can kind of like hop on top of these rooftops so you can get angles fighting other buildings that other people won't expect. You've got this beautiful river, and like you might remember as well from the patch notes that if you're crouching in a river, you get the benefits of cold-blooded, which is a nice little touch. But you're going to be fighting between these buildings. Probably going to be a really good place to drop early game because it's going to be quite loot intensive, and like it is beautiful. I can't get over how good this map looks compared to Verdansk. It's so colorful and bright, but all these fights, and like, as I said earlier, right, when we were looking at mines, like all these little details of how to transition to different parts of buildings and around the map. But overall, really cool place. And I can see myself landing at Village a lot, to be perfectly honest. I think you're going to be able to get a lot of loot here very quickly, as you then kind of like transition to the rest of the map. And there's not too many like hot drops around here, to be totally honest. So it could be a really good place to land and start if you're looking for a win. So the next area we have is Lagoon, which is in the southwest corner of the map near Airfield, and you've got this giant lighthouse, which is definitely going to be some kind of power position for snipers, as like they hold off people coming from like kind of Village across this bridge over here. You've got a couple key buildings in Lagoon as well, so you've kind of got this main structure here which has got a hole in the roof so you can kind of push through and rotate. Like there's so many more options in these sort of buildings. Like this is a very similar building to what we had in Verdansk with an extra layer of it inside, but as you push through, you've also got like a kind of like house overlooking Lagoon there. But it is a gorgeous part, but very open, I think. And as you kind of go to this kind of large kind of like waterway with a few huts around it, but kind of an open area. You're going to have a lot of action, I think, around the lighthouse. But if you're pushing this position and someone's already got that established, going to be very, very difficult. And something I do love, though, is all these like kind of little cave networks that you can find. Like, I've not seen this. This is a mine. Where does this mine lead? Is this a way to push? Like, see, this is what I'm on about. This map has got so many like hidden spots and areas for you to find. That is just like death waiting to happen. But this is Lagoon. Cool thing. Also, something else you might want to think, because I thought I'd like kind of throw in a few little tricks as well. If you want to go hide on a palm tree, you might have done this in Vanguard multiplayer. Nice little spot to do it. Not everyone's going to be looking here, but that's Lagoon. But talking of power positions, our next location, Airfield, probably has the one that is going to become the most iconic. And it is another air traffic control tower, which you can kind of sit in and overlook the entire airfield, which is littered with fighter planes. So this is where you want to go, similar to Runway that we saw earlier. If you want to get a plane and kind of fly around the map and take people out as in like a dogfight, this is the place to go. You've got loads of warehouses, and this is going to be one of the more popular places on the map, because very similar to airport, there's loads of buildings around here, loads of places you can fight. You even got silos across. We push through here, and just like you've got this entire air traffic control tower in here. But if you push through like multiple layers, there's going to be loads and loads of loot around here, going to become one of the hot drops of Caldera. Personally, really looking forward to it. The transition going from between these two buildings is going to be impossible, so you're going to have to kind of always go the long way around, so you don't get beamed. But you've got silos here, which is kind of giving me throwbacks to Verdansk as well. But really cool area. Once again, place to go if you want to get a plane or get killed by someone camping in the air traffic control tower. Next, we've got Fields, which is right in the middle of the map. And my first impressions of this is I thought it was going to be kind of a boring area, to be perfectly honest, a bit like farmland in Verdansk, but it is not. Like, look how colorful this is, first of all. And you've kind of got that bridge in the distance going over across there. But this is the area that has got kind of tons and tons of small buildings. So many different buildings as well. Like in Verdansk, there was so many like kind of buildings that are copy and pasted, and it was just all the same. Here, that is just not the case. Of course, there are like kind of like single bungalows. There's like 2 stories. There's a lot, but this is where you're going to be for like building to building combat as you push across. Very similar to like how Farmland played, and you kind of got some big warehouses across here as well, like kind of like some biggish buildings. And like I said, it's going to take a long time to learn this map like the back of your hand, like we've done with Verdansk, and that's gonna be one of the biggest areas from like a skill position. But if you go like here in Fields, like you've kind of got this big warehouse, and here loads of kind of like pillars to fight around and kind of bait and switch opponents. I am so excited. But this is Fields, and you kind of get this the whole way around, like loads of different buildings. So you're gonna find one that you love for yourself. Our next location is Subpen, which is on the southeast part of the map, and it's this giant building, which, as you can probably guess, is for submarines. So if we kind of go inside, I first thought it could be very similar to the Subpen map that we have on Vanguard, but it is not. It's pretty much one giant warehouse where you're kind of protected. Like you've got all this kind of water areas. There's not really any like major submarines inside, but this is going to be kind of like close quarters combat. I'm trying to think if there's something similar to it in Verdansk, and there really isn't. It's this very own kind of like enclosed. Oh yeah, also if you pop a stim, you run super fast. There's multiple roofs like kind of the top, which you're not really gonna fight around here, like, to be perfectly honest. But this is just an area that I'm not super excited about. I think it's probably one of my least favorite areas from what I've seen so far. You've got loads of houses outside, which is very like military base, with this kind of like this giant compound in there. As I squish my legs, goodbye Subpens. But right next to Subpens, we have got Resort, which has this banner, right, of the FaZe squad that won the CDL in Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, which is pretty damn sick to see. Maybe we'll get on there one day for winning the World Series of Warzone, but the Resort building looks pretty cool. It looks like a giant school, to be perfectly honest with you, which could be kind of a fun place to fight. Really open, like kind of like halls and rooms with like kind of like closed corridors down here. This feels like it's going to be the hospital of Caldera. You know, like kind of like hot drop where people fight for the roof, and then kind of like can get a lot of loot. You got kind of like a zip wire system up there before you get onto the roof, and then you can kind of look over the rest of the resort, which if we just take a quick look at, you can see there's like kind of like a bell tower over there that you can fight in. You've got like loads of different like high ground positions. You've got a few other buildings and little kind of small compounds around, but just kind of like a small area, quite kind of like closed off to itself, but a nice spot. And also, right, if you want a game of tennis, you can do that too. So our next location on Caldera, and right next to resort, we have what is going to be the superstore of Caldera capital. And like my first impression was this is going to be downtown, but it's not. There is so much here. Like it is so dense. You've got this big giant kind of like town hall building there, which has got some great lines of sights from the top, and as you make your way through, every building is so different. This is going to be so dense when it comes to the amount of loot. So if you're like going for a hot drop and trying to get as many kills as possible, and you've seen the majority of locations now, this is going to be the place to be. There is going to be so many fights through here. Like the amount of places that you have to potentially lose opponents or kind of like fight across some buildings or kind of pull off flanks is incredible. Like look here, right? We've got a kind of like a car dealership in here, which has like some like kind of old school cars, which is kind of nice, which you can then use and then go into the back of the garage. Like there is so much detail. I've said this before in the video. They've done such a great job in building out all these individual areas to feel so different. I think we're going to have a lot of fun kind of like exploring and learning these. And it's going to take some time, but Capital City is where you want to be on the south part if you want a hot drop when you land into Caldera. So our final point of interest is the power plant, and I wish I could say I was saving the best till last, but I would be lying. This, along with Subpens, is probably one of my least favorite areas. It's kind of just a big, giant factory building, to be perfectly honest. You've got a few smaller buildings all around the outside of it, alongside a couple silos, but you have this kind of big main power plant building, which, as you can see, there isn't that much to it. You've got a couple ladders up here with kind of like some smaller rooms that you can shoot from around to the outskirts. And then you can kind of like go down here for like a little bit of a different route or a potential flank. But it's just a big power plant building. There's not much else to it, though there are a couple little fighting robots. But, you know, that's the power plant. And for those wondering if there were going to be any secrets in Caldera, there are bunkers. I can confirm there is a bunker. You'll probably need a key card. We don't know how to get that yet, but there were also redacted messages within that blog post when they first talked about the map. So this is very, very exciting, but this will be opening under the base of the peak. So there we have it. That is Caldera, the brand new Call of Duty Warzone map. Make sure to let me know what you think about it down in the comments.